One lap, 6 women, and a race that nobody saw coming. The women's 400 meters. Final brought together some of the best quarter-milers in Europe, each one carrying a different story into these starting blocks. Look at that focus, that locked-in intensity. This is not just a race. This is a collision of speed, nerve, and months of brutal preparation, distilled into 45 seconds of everything. Cynthia Bolingo Mbongo and Lea Sprunger pushed to the front early, but in a 400, the front at 200 meters means nothing. Who has the legs to hold on? Who has the composure to wait and strike? You are about to find out. In lane 1 from the Netherlands, Lisanne de Witte, a European bronze medalist who posted a personal best of 52.34 in her semi-final. Lane 2 brings us Justyna Swiety-Ersetic of Poland, the reigning European outdoor champion and a cornerstone of Poland's acclaimed relay squad. From Lithuania in lane 3, Agne Serksniene. She set a national record of 52.33 in her semi-final, announcing herself as a genuine threat tonight. In lane 4, representing Italy, Raphaela Boaheng Lukudo. She ran 2 fearless races through the heats and semifinals, earning a personal best of 52.48 along the way. Lane 5 belongs to Belgium's Cynthia Bolingo Mbongo. Back-to-back national records in the heat and the semi-final, each one faster than the last. She is running the form of her life. And in lane 6 from Switzerland, Lea Sprunger. She blazed a European leading time of 51.19 in her semi-final, the fastest 400 meters run in Europe this season. And she enters this final as the clear favorite. All eyes on Sprunger wearing that blue bib, marking her as the continental leader. But 5 fierce and hungry competitors stand between her and gold on this track tonight. Six stories and glory. The 400 meters is the ultimate test. Fast enough to hurt from the gun. Enough the composure and courage decide everything in the final straight. Everyone has her place after 2 grueling rounds of racing. The crowd is coming. They have seen the semi-final times, they have seen who is in form, and they are ready. Now the athletes settle into the blocks, and the only thing left is the gun. This is championship athletics at its finest.
Raphaela Boaheng Lukudo Cynthia Bolingo Mbongo of Belgian, lane 6. Favorite Lea Sprunger of Switzerland.
Set.
They're off. 6 athletes exploding into the first bend, and it's Bolingo Mbongo and Sprunger immediately asserting themselves at the front. De Witte clean away in lane 1, Lukudo driving powerfully through the curve, Swiety-Ersetic settling into her rhythm on the inside. Contact between Bolingo Mbongo and Serksniene on the back straight. 100 meters to go and Sprunger is striding away, turning into the home straight with real daylight opening up. Lukudo working incredibly hard, but it's Bolingo Mbongo surging on the outside, closing fast, eating into that gap stride by stride. Sprunger is working. Bolingo Mbongo is absolutely flying in this final straight. Frantic finish. Who gets it? Lea Sprunger wins. A world-leading time of 51.61 for the Swiss star, gold medal in the women's 400 meters final. Sprunger drops to the track, pure emotion, pure disbelief. And what a charge from Bolingo Mbongo. a Belgian national record of 51.62 for silver. An astonishing finish. The Swiss flag is out and this crowd is on its feet. Sprunger is primarily known as a 400-meter hurdler, but that flat speed, a 51.61 world lead, tells you everything. She nearly touched her Swiss national record in a championship final. She is not just a hurdler dabbling on the flat. She is a genuine elite 400-meter runner. Let's talk about Cynthia Bolingo Mbongo. 3 races, 3 Belgian national records. Heat, semi-final, final, each one faster than the last. That kind of progression under championship pressure is genuinely hard to do. Silver in 51.62, and Lisanne de Witte from lane 1 claws her way to bronze, a personal best of 52.34, doing it the hard way on the inside lane. Justyna Swiety-Ersetic, the European outdoor champion, finishes 6th. She never quite found the form that got her here. But the story tonight is Lea Sprunger, 51.61, world lead gold medal. Watch this in slow motion and see exactly where this race was decided. From the gun, Sprunger's block clearance is textbook, low, explosive, and she is already running tall within 20 meters. Into the first bend, her lane discipline is perfect, conserving energy through the curve, while Bolingo Mbongo goes hard on the outside. Watch the back straight. That's the contact between Bolingo Mbongo and Serksniene, and to her credit, Bolingo Mbongo barely breaks stride. Coming off the final bend, Sprunger has that gap, and her mechanics are still clean. Arms driving in sync, stride length holding where other runners are starting to shorten. Bolingo Mbongo's surge is extraordinary, closing meter by meter, but the gap set through the bend is simply too large to bridge in 30 meters. And watch de Witte on the inside lane, finding one final desperate surge to claim bronze, a personal best in the most pressured of moments. 3 women, 3 medals, and a 400-meter final that delivered everything it promised. Sprunger had this won before the final straight started. That's the key fact people miss when they replay the finish and see Bolingo Mbongo closing to 100th of a second. The Belgian ran a superb last 100 meters, maybe the best closing split in the field. But Sprunger built the gap through the bend, and that gap was the race. By the time Bolingo Mbongo started her surge, she was already 3 meters back and running out of track. 100th of a second at the line tells you it was close. The gap at 300 meters tells you it wasn't. The lane draw gave Sprunger lane 6, which sounds like the outside but is actually ideal for a 400 hurdler transitioning to flat racing. You run the first bend slightly wider, but you can see most of the field ahead of you, and you don't burn energy reacting to what's happening on your shoulder. Sprunger used that. She went out assertively, sat on Bolingo Mbongo's shoulder through the first 100 meters, and then controlled the back straight at her own rhythm. Her mechanics through the final curve were the difference. She stayed tall, kept her stride long, and didn't let the oxygen debt shorten her arm drive. The way it did to Lukudo and Serksniene in the final 80 meters. That's a hurdler's body knowledge. You run 400 meters of hurdles for a living, you learn to sustain form under fatigue in ways flat specialists sometimes don't. Bolingo Mbongo's performance deserves its own accounting. She ran 51.62, a Belgian national record. That was her 3rd national record across the 3 races at this championship, each one faster than the last. Heat to semi to final, improving every round. That's not luck, that's peaking. The contact with Serksniene on the back straight could have rattled her. It didn't. She absorbed it, held her position, and still produced the fastest closing split of anyone in that race. On a different night, with a slightly smaller gap to close, she wins this. De Witte in lane 1 was the quiet story. A 52.34 personal best from the inside lane, which is the hardest lane to run tactically in a 400. You can't see the field, you have to run your own race blind. She did exactly that. Swiety-Ersetic, the European outdoor champion, finished last in 52.64. She was never quite there across the 3 rounds. Sometimes the form that gets you a title outdoors just doesn't travel to the next championship cycle. A 51.61 world lead for a primarily hurdling specialist is worth putting in context. Daphne Schippers ran 49.05 to win the 2015 World 200 meters title after a career built on the sprint hurdles. The crossover between barrier events and flat sprints has a history, but crossing into 400 flat territory at this level is less common. The last Swiss woman to run sub-52 on the flat with any consistency was essentially nobody. Sprunger is doing something new for her country and close to something new for herself. Her Swiss national record sits at 51.26, set indoors. She ran 51.19 in the semifinal of this championship. The final was 51.61. She ran faster in the semi than the final, which tells you something about how hard Bolingo Mbongo pushed her over that last 80 meters. What comes next is a genuine question, and it's an interesting one. The 400 hurdles and the 400 flat are both on the World Championship schedule. Sprunger has to choose, or her federation does. Her hurdles personal best sits around 52.79 from previous seasons, but her event-specific peak there and her flat speed are both pointing to the hurdles as her primary discipline. The flat win doesn't change that calculation, but it does mean that whoever she races in either event next year knows she's coming with legitimate speed in both directions. She'll start a hurdles final as a medal threat. She'll start a flat final as a medal threat. That's a position almost nobody in world athletics currently occupies at the 400-meter range. The next time she lines up, in either event, the rest of the field will have done the math on what happened here.